With virtual OTAs underway, the offseason pretty much over, how good did the Buffalo Bills do? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to a 2020 offseason ranking edition of Billievers Talk, where we're going to take a look at the Buffalo Bills 2020 offseason and rank it to the other 31 teams in the NFL. Where does the Buffalo Bills offseason rank compared to some other teams? Before we do that, however, guys, again, thank you for joining me on Billievers Talk. My name is Joe. If you are new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. After you hit that subscribe button, you want to make sure you hit that notification bell. YouTube will notify you when we post new content, whether it be live breaking news or whether it be videos like this where we do some rankings or some comparisons or talk about the Buffalo Bills. We have you covered on all Buffalo Bills information. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. After you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. While you're here, like this video and leave a comment. Let me know where you think the Buffalo Bills offseason ranked compared to some of these other teams. I'm going to mention some of the better off seasons after we're done talking about the Buffalo Bills offseason. What all did the Buffalo Bills do in the 2020 offseason, and how do they rank? I'll give you my full ranking at the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So let's start with the Buffalo Bills off-season. How did their off-season go, right? And it starts with early March. We have to go back 2 months, 2.5 months basically, to get going with the Buffalo Bills off-season, because the Buffalo Bills off-season started before free agency became officially started, and that's when the Buffalo Bills signed cornerback Josh Norman. Josh Norman was released by the Redskins prior to his contract running out, which meant he could sign with any team at any time, and that is what he did. He signs with the Buffalo Bills, and if you're a Bills fan, you are excited. You know what Coach McDermott was able to do with Josh Norman in Carolina, and you're hoping for some of that success again here in Buffalo. Now we know this is not Coach McDermott's defense. This is Leslie Frazier's defense, but if we've learned anything from Leslie Frazier and Coach McDermott over the last 2 seasons, it's that they're going to do their best to put defensive players in the best position to succeed. And we've seen that time and time again, not only with players in Buffalo, but when players leave Buffalo, they're not as productive. And that is because of what Leslie Frazier, what Coach McDermott are able to do with those players on the defensive side of the ball here in Buffalo. So that's how the Buffalo Bills offseason gets underway. Really a good start, gets things going, and then we talk about the tampering period when it comes to free agency. And man, did the Buffalo Bills have a big day one. If you remember, it was late in day one before the Buffalo Bills got started, but we added 3 players, 2 through free agency, and that almighty trade that Buffalo Bills fans will remember for a long time to come, hopefully. We first pick up Mario Addison and AJ Klein on that day, but that's not what Buffalo Bills fans were talking about. Buffalo Bills fans were talking about that trade with the Minnesota Vikings. The Buffalo Bills trade their first-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, along with some other picks, to the Minnesota Vikings for wide receiver Stefon Diggs. That's right, the Buffalo Bills get their true #1 wide receiver, and I think Bills Mafia is more than excited to see Stefon Diggs coming to Buffalo. But that's not where we stopped. Free agency was just getting underway. The Buffalo Bills had a lot more signings to do before free agency was over, or at least before the draft was to start. The Buffalo Bills pick up Tyler, I'm going to say his name wrong, Matakovic, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Quentin Jefferson, Vernon Butler. We picked both them guys up. Vernon Butler might have a more significant role with Buffalo due to the fact of what Ed Oliver did just a few days ago. So that might be an even bigger signing now in retrospect. Tyron Jones comes back to Buffalo, running back, and so does EJ Gaines at that cornerback position. The Bills also signed 3 offensive linemen, Darrell Williams, Evan Baum, and Garrett McGinn. Also signing Mike Bell, linebacker, and of course, most recently, signing Brian Cox Jr., defensive end, of course, the son of Brian Cox, formerly of the Miami Dolphins, public enemy #1 in Buffalo for the longest time. Oh, for the longest time. But now we embrace his son and wish him nothing but the best here in Buffalo. And then we got into the 2020 NFL draft. And guys, if you watched the previous episode, you know that I gave the Buffalo Bills an A- for their NFL draft. I thought they had a great NFL draft. Obviously, they don't have a number one or a first round pick, trading it for Stephon Diggs. But if you look at what Minnesota got in the first round, Van Jefferson, a good pick, has a chance to be a really good wide receiver in this league, but I don't think he's going to be a really good wide receiver year one. The Buffalo Bills got out with Stephon Diggs, a guy who's already been in the league a few years, a guy that's under contract for 4 more years, a pretty good deal for a number one wide receiver. So I'm still happy with the trade. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Are you still happy with the Stephon Diggs trade? I'm still a fan. I'm glad that we pulled the trigger there, giving Josh Allen a true number one wide receiver. So in the second round, the Buffalo Bills start off their draft with a guy who was originally picked to go in the top 15, who was originally mocked to go in the top 15, and that's defensive end AJ Epineza out of Iowa. Really good pick for where the Buffalo Bills were picking. A really big steal for the Buffalo Bills, picking at 54, able to get AJ Epineza, like I said, a guy originally mocked to go in the top 15 in a lot of mock drafts. Then we go into the third round and we address that backup running back need, picking up Zach Moss, running back out of Utah. A really good running back. He actually took a 1/10 of a second off his 40 time after the combine, so I'm really excited to see what Zach Moss can add to the Buffalo Bills. 1-2 punch really with Epineza in the second round and Zach Moss in the third. Really good picks by the Buffalo Bills. And then we pick up Gabriel Davis. Then we pick up Jack Fromm. Tyler Bass, kicker, to contend with Steven Hauschka for that kicking job. Then we pick up another wide receiver, Isaiah Hodgins, out of Oregon State. And then with the 7th round pick, a lot of Bills fans were happy with this pick, including myself. The Buffalo Bills pick up Dane Jackson, cornerback out of Pittsburgh. Now, of course, we don't think he's going to make the team this year, but you're talking about a guy who has some raw talent, a raw ability. Remember, he was a quarterback in high school, so he's only spent 4 years at the cornerback position. Let's see if we can make that raw talent turn it into something while he's on the practice squad. But let's not just talk about free agents. Let's not just talk about draft picks. Who did the Buffalo Bills re-sign? Bills players that were there in 2019 that may become free agents that the Bills re-signed. Most of these for depth, but I think the biggest re-signing for the Buffalo Bills has to be Quinton Spain. Quinton Spain did not allow a single sack last season for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills re-signed him, so we expect to see Quinton Spain on the offensive line to start the 2020 NFL season. Going down the rest of the list, you have Levi Wallace, cornerback, right? So Levi Wallace might compete with Josh Norman for that CB2 spot, maybe play a little bit more slot corner as well, but you know that cornerback room is looking pretty good. Isaiah McKenzie, Robert Foster, both at that wide receiver position with the draft picks as well. Maybe both of those guys will not make the team, but we have that depth now. We have 2 guys who have been part of the Buffalo Bills system for a little bit. Maybe it'll help these younger guys coming up as well learn the playbook, get ready for the 2020 NFL season. Then you also have Dean Marlowe and Jason Kroom as well, re-signed with the Buffalo Bills. 2 depth signings who I really like. Dean Marlowe, we want to see more out of Jason Kroom. Of course, this season was pretty good his first season. Last year didn't play at all, so we want to see something out of Jason Kroom this season, see what he has. So that is pretty much the Buffalo Bills offseason as far as players go. We could talk about the undrafted free agents led by Trey Adams, offensive tackle out of Washington. But another thing I want to talk about that sometimes gets overlooked is what the Buffalo Bills did with their coaching staff during the offseason. I think that's a big important part about when you're talking about which teams had the best off seasons, because to me, when you improve your coaching staff, you're talking about stability within a team. So when you promote Leslie Frazier from defensive coordinator to defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, that's creating stability. And then the Buffalo Bills added 3 more coaches. I believe they added a new offensive lines coach or something like that as well. So there's a lot of good pieces here for the Buffalo Bills, adding to the coaching staff, adding to the roster. I think the Buffalo Bills had a really good 2020 offseason. Let me know what you think in the comment section. How do you feel the Buffalo Bills did this year in the offseason? It's nice to have an offseason where there aren't 100 questions, right? A lot of these free agent signings were filling depth roles, right? Not necessarily filling positions of need, because the Buffalo Bills, they had a lot of positions of need. They had some things they would like a cornerback too. So what do? We go out and sign a few cornerbacks, Levi Wallace and Josh Norman, just to name, and EJ Gaines, just to name a few, right? What do we do at wide receiver? We need a true number one. We go out and get Stephon Diggs. We make that big splash trade that Buffalo is normally not known for, but Brandon Beane proving he's not afraid to pull the trigger. There were talks about Buffalo Bills being interested in Emmanuel Sanders as well. So if the Stephon Diggs trade did not go through, they were ready to get Emmanuel Sanders. So obviously, Brandon Beane not afraid to pull that trigger. So I think the Buffalo Bills overall had a really good offseason. So now let's compare that offseason to some of the other teams in the NFL. So what I did was I gave you, I wrote down my 4 favorite off seasons other than the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to go ahead and rank them after we talk about them a little bit, right? So this isn't how I would rank them. I'm going to go over them in alphabetical order first, and then we're going to rank them. First, I think I gotta give credit to the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals, in my opinion, had a great offseason. Obviously, the marquee trade, same day as we trade for Stephon Diggs, they trade for DeAndre Hopkins, and they don't have to give up nearly as much due to the contract. But man, to get a guy like DeAndre Hopkins on your team for a young quarterback in Kyler Murray to throw the ball to, that's a huge advantage. Now you're talking about a DeAndre Hopkins next to Larry Fitzgerald. I know Larry Fitzgerald is not the same Larry Fitzgerald of 5-10 years ago, but the man can still get the job done. You had some youth at wide receiver as well during during the draft. I think it's going to be a great season for the Arizona Cardinals to build. That's not even to mention the ex-Bill Jordan Phillips getting us signing with the Arizona Cardinals. And then in the first round of the NFL draft, they signed Isaiah Simmons. I think Isaiah Simmons was the best player in this draft, to be honest with you. So to see him fall to number 8 to the Arizona Cardinals, they get a steal there. I think the Arizona Cardinals had a really good offseason. Now in that division, there might still be a year or two before they can compete with the likes of Seattle or San Fran, but really good start for the Arizona Cardinals. Then you go to the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos had a really good offseason. Now, I wish they would have addressed their offensive line a little bit more. But when you talk about trading for A.J. Bouye, when you talk about picking up a guy like a Melvin Gordon, who might have a huge role in that offense, now you're talking about Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon in that backfield, going to be a really good 1-2 punch for the Denver Broncos. Drafting Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver out of Alabama, drafting KJ Hamler out of Penn State, another wide receiver. This team is ready to put up points against a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Now, obviously, I still have concerns with their quarterback, but they can't address that now. You have to give your boy Locke another year to see what he is capable of doing. Again, I wish they would address the offensive line a little bit more, but I think they had a pretty good offseason, and I have to rank them up there for one of the best in the NFL. Then you look at the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts are being overlooked here with what they did during this offseason. I know a lot of people are going to say Phillip Rivers doesn't have it anymore, but what if he does? He's going to a team in the Indianapolis Colts that has a good offensive line, and they actually solidified that offensive line during the offseason, re-signing Anthony Costanzo, the center for them this offseason. So he's going to be back. You have that camaraderie on the offensive line. If you give Phillip Rivers time, he still might beat you, and the Indianapolis Colts gave him another wide receiver to throw the ball to in Michael Pittman during the NFL draft. And they also picked up a running back that a lot of Bills fans were looking at, the Buffalo Bills potentially picking up when they picked up Jonathan Taylor, running back out of Wisconsin. So I really like the Colts this year as far, and also let's not forget about that trade for DeForest Buckner either, with the San Francisco 49ers helping out that defense just a little bit more. So we're a big fan of the Indianapolis Colts draft. You gotta love what Frank Reich and those guys are doing over in Indianapolis, which wish them nothing but the best of luck over there. And then my fourth team on this list is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Listen, Bills fans might not be happy to hear me say it, but when you add TB12 to your team, you're just adding a player that has 6 Super Bowls, you're adding experience, you're adding a guy that can win in most any condition, or he's seen most any condition you could throw at him, a guy that's not afraid of the big moments. And when you pair him with Bruce Arians, you might see some good Tom Brady left in the tank. this season, and then he helps bring someone back out of retirement that's really going to help open up the passing game, and that's Rob Gronkowski. Now, how will Gronk act after missing a full season in the NFL? We're not sure, but at the same time, he's fresher now, he's healthier. That time position might be where he needs to play. Obviously, Jason Witten came back, and he's much older, but you can see what Gronk can do this offseason. But it's not just those two moves, right? They re-signed Shaquille Barrett. They draft Tristan Wirfs, who I thought was the best offensive lineman in this draft, with the 13th overall pick. How does he fall that far? It's just amazing to me. Also drafting Antoine Winfield Jr., obviously some ties with the Buffalo Bills there. So you have to be really impressed with what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did this offseason. So those would be my top 5. If you throw the Buffalo Bills in there, you have the Cardinals, the Bills, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Buccaneers. I think those would be my top 5. If I were to rank them, I would put the Cardinals first, I'd put the Buccaneers second, and I'd put the Bills third, Colts fourth, Broncos fifth. That would be the order of my offseason. I would have the Bills as the third best offseason this year in 2020. Heading into the regular season, I think the Bills are primed to make some noise and to win the AFC East as much of Bills Mafia does. Believe the Bills are going to win the AFC East in 2020, and that is my expectation as well. So again, I have the Bills as the third best offseason this year. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Where do the Buffalo Bills rank as far as your rankings of the 32 NFL teams when it comes to 2020 off seasons? What was your favorite move? Was it the trade, which most people love, for Stephon Diggs? Was it AJ Epineza in the second round? Was it signing a guy like a Quentin Jefferson or a Vernon Butler to this team to make this team even better? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know where you rank the Buffalo Bills as far as off seasons are concerned. Again, I think the Buffalo Bills had the third best offseason of any team in the NFL. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I look forward to seeing all your comments. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.